Welcome the future doctors. In the previous lecture, we have studied about the lateral bone of the forearm called as radius. In the today's lecture, we will learn about the medial bone of the forearm called as ulna. Okay. In the previous lecture, I have told you that this is the arm and forward of the arm is called as forearm, which contains two bones which are radius and ulna. Radius one was lateral bone and ulna is the medial bone. So this ulna is the medial bone of the upper limb. Okay, it is as homologous to fibula of the lower limb, right? Now, when we talk about the ulna, it is also a type of a long bone. So, as usual, long bone contains two ends, upper and lower end, and one shaft. It is present in the vertical direction in the body, right? It is a vertical long bone. Okay. It contains upper end, lower end, and a shaft. So whenever we start any bone, first of all, we see its side determination, right? If you want to know which is the upper and the lower end, so upper end contains the olecranon process. It is very remarkable process of the ulna. So the upper end is easily identified, right? This is upper end, this is lower end, right? And if you want to know the lateral side of the bone, so the lateral border is the sharpest border of the ulna. In the radius, the medial one was the sharpest. It is also called as interosseous border because there are forming two triangles. Their base are present laterally, and these triangles are like this present, and this their top apex are joined with the interosseous border. Like this, it is present in our hand or forearm. So, lateral border or interosseous border is the sharpest border. So, you can easily identify the lateral and the medial side. One more medial side at the inferior surface. Now, see at the inferior surface at posterior medially there is a presence of a styloid process. In the previous lecture I have told about the styloid process of ulna, which is present on posterior laterally. Okay, it is present laterally. By mistakenly I have told it is medially, but it is not medially, it is laterally present in the human hand. Let us talk about the upper end of the ulna. So upper end is little bit complicated also and very interesting to study. So upper end contains the olecranon process, which is like this present. You can see it is like the cobra. Okay. Upper end contains olecranon process, and this is coronoid process, means cow's beak like process. Okay. Now let us talk about the olecranon process. So olecranon process contains superior surface. This is superior surface, right? There is something rough area behind the superior surface. This is the anterior surface, which is an articulating surface, which articulates with humerus trochlea, okay, to form that capsular or elbow joint. So this is its lateral surface along the lateral or interosseous border. This is a lateral surface. This lateral surface further continues with the lateral surface continues with the lateral surface of the posterior surface of the shaft. Okay, this is the posterior surface. Posterior surface is little bit triangular. It is subcutaneous throughout. Okay, and it's this surface is it is very subcutaneous and it is separated from the skin with the help of bursa. Okay, this is the medial surface. Medial surface continues with the medial surface of the shaft, right? Now let us talk about the coronoid process. It also contains the superior surface. Superior surface is the lower part of the trochlear notch. This is upper part of the trochlear notch. This is lower part of the trochlear notch, right? Which contains the anterior surface. Below the anterior surface, there is a presence of a ulnar tuberosity. Presence of ulnar tuberosity. Now, when you talk about the lateral surface, so in its lateral surface, in the upper part, there is a presence of a notch for the articulating surface of the head of the radius to form superior radioulnar joint. Okay, and the lower part there is a presence of a depression to fit, to rest the radial tuberosity. So the radial tuberosity rests here. So there is a little depression here. This is the medial surface which continues with the medial surface of the shaft. This is the shaft of the ulna, which also contains 3 surfaces and 3 borders. Okay. One more distinguishing features of this is that there is a presence of a supinator crest along the lateral surface of the coronoid process, supinator crest, which is limited up to this. Lateral surface is limited up to this. Okay. Now, when you learn about the anterior border, okay, this is the anterior border which starts from the midline of the ulnar tuberosity and continues at the base. It goes back and continues at the and ends at the mid of the head of the styloid process. Mid of the styloid process. Head not. It is here head and it is this. So it goes like this. It starts from the middle here and goes and at the base, mid base of the styloid process. Here is the presence of a lateral border. It do not contains the medial border. Ulna do not, radius do not contain the lateral border and ulna do not contain the medial border. This is the lateral border. This starts from the supinator crest. So we have seen here is the presence of supinator crest and it ends at the styloid process downwards. This is the biggest border or the largest border we can say, which is called as posterior border, which starts from this triangular surface of olecranon towards the end of the styloid process. Now, let's see the surfaces. The surface present between the anterior and the lateral borders are called as lateral surface. The surface present between the posterior and the lateral border are called as posterior surface. And the surface between the anterior and the posterior border are called as lateral surface. This was all about the shaft. Now let us see, this is the lower end of the ulna. It contains head and the styloid process. Very interesting. Head is present at the lower end. Radius head was present at the upper end. Usually our head is also present at the upper end of our body, but the ulna's head is present at the lower end of the bone. It contains head, okay. It contains a styloid process. Radius also contains styloid process. It also contains styloid process. So I usually call this bone as the big brother of the radius. So they also contains styloid process. There are many similarities that they are present in forearm. So I usually call it is not anywhere else, but I call it as a big brother of the radius. Now at the posterior part, see here, at the mid of the posterior part, there is a presence of a groove between the styloid process and the head for the tendon of extensor carpi ulnaris muscle. This is one of the extinguishing features of the ulna. Now we have all finished about the ulna. Attachments we will see in the further lecture. Also the radius attachments and the ulnar attachments. Now let us talk about the ossification of this bone. Usually ossification, the shaft ossifies with the help of a primary center, okay, which develops during the 8th week of uterine life or your development, and the lower and the upper end both develops from a secondary centers. It was all about the ulna. Okay, in the further lecture we will talk about its attachments. Till that, keep learning. Thank you.